Welcome back to the Have Not Room. I'm Ben, and I'm joined here, as always, by Chad and Brian, and we are here to break down the finale of Big Brother 22. Finally.
We made it.
God.
We actually did it.
Yeah.
It's real.
Wow.
The season's over, boys. We got through it, and we have possibly one of the cleanest Big Brother games of all time that we've seen throughout this season, start to finish. Cody Calafiore is your winner, as we kind of have seen coming for a little bit. And he won with a unanimous vote. He played a perfect game, the first ever in the history of the show, where he was never nominated, even down to the final three. He won the final HOH, so he wasn't even default nominated at the end. And then he won every single jury vote, pretty much flawless start to finish. Chad, this was your winner pick.
Chad, let's see it for Chad. Let's go.
Yeah.
Made the pick. Making us look smart on here.
Yeah. In our preseason,
a lot of work.
Yeah, I think Chad probably gets half the money, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're gonna hit up Cody after that.
I'm sure
Yeah.
Cody's gonna get here any minute.
Yep.
Give you the check. But
Yeah.
no, I mean,
Send them
hey,
tips.
congrats. I mean, I'm happy that one of us got it. Like,
Yeah.
Hey, if it wasn't me, it would have been one of you two. So
I don't know.
this is a victory. This is a victory for the Have Not.
Yes.
Yep.
Very true.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, congratulations, Cody. You'll probably never watch this, but if any of his fans watch this, amazing game. Super
Yeah.
boring. Holy fuck, but amazing.
Oh my god, so boring.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a style of gameplay, and that gameplay style he kind of learned from Derek on BB16, which is historically also well known as kind of a boring season in terms of strategy and gameplay. But it's effective. I mean, you can't say it's not effective.
I would never say that.
Oh
Boy.
And, Cody definitely made, like, we talked earlier about Christmas kind of being in a good position socially on accident, because she had connections to people like Bailey and Davon that she, unceremoniously threw away. But within the committee alliance and that, greater structure, committee plus Enzo, and then kind of, a couple of pieces, Cody very deliberately put himself in the center of that alliance structure in terms of the relationships that he made, and yeah, it definitely paid off. I mean, he talked about it in his final speech, how he would play Tyler and Danny against each other in the early parts of the season, and how he had these two relationships with Enzo and Nicole that were feeding him information, and who had their own relationships outside of him. So yeah, I mean, Chad, this is your winner pick. You have any immediate thoughts about Cody's game overall? We're going to talk about his legacy, of course, but just any kind of collective thoughts about him and his game this season.
Yeah, I mean, I was impressed from start to finish with Cody. It was, everything he said in his jury speech was 100% accurate to what he actually did, as opposed to Christmas locking in her key saying he wasn't truthful, but Christmas is not the brightest Big Brother player.
What?
Shocker. But no, he outlined his jury speech pretty well, so I was pretty impressed with that, as a little just cherry on top of what he did. His physical game, his comp game was always there, but on top of everything else, his social game, I think it was just as flawless. I mean, he had his bases covered when he was vulnerable, and even when people easily could have taken him out, he made those deals. He pitted people against each other. He always made sure he was in those conversations, like he said. So it was just so impressive how he steamrolled this season. Similar to what Derek did, but this is an all-star season with a cast that coming in, we were all in awe that they got these people on, with a few duds, a couple maybe. It was just impressive that a player is able to do that on an all-star season, and never mind getting a perfect game. It's just I'm blown away. That's probably the best Big Brother game we're gonna see for a little while.
Yeah, I hope it's the last type of this game that we'll see for a while.
Yeah.
It's like, guys, now that it's been perfected, right? We can move on to different strategies. Like, God, it just. But yeah, I mean, I think most impressive is his ability to be pretty like visibly in control, but so like good with everyone that he was never nominated. And he said that his most important move was taking out Tyler because he felt like Tyler would be in the final two if it weren't for him. I agree. I think Tyler was the only one who was potentially woke to Cody needing to go, and comp outcomes didn't favor him. So, just so impressed. And he at least gave us a morsel of like spicy drama at the very end when he cut Nicole.
Yeah, no, we were talking about that as it happened as well, about whether it was the correct decision. I think definitely in hindsight, it probably was the correct decision. Obviously, he won unanimously with this jury vote against Enzo. I think there is a pretty decent chance, from what people are saying in exit interviews and outside the house so far, that Nicole could have at least gotten a few votes off of the jury if it was her instead of Enzo there. So yeah, even down to the last decision at the very end, he made the correct, very emotionless. Even though it was an emotional moment for him and for Nicole and Enzo, like he made the decision strategically and without taking emotion too much into account, and he decided on taking Enzo because specifically he thought that he had a better chance of beating him, and I think that he was correct.
Yeah, I mean, he probably didn't need to do it, but he just had to like shore up that one out of 100 chance that somehow Nicole was going to beat him. He needed to make sure that wasn't going to happen.
Yep.
And realistically, and maybe ironically, Enzo I thought was going to have a much better final speech, but he seemed so rattled. He was just completely inarticulate, and it almost came off like he was stumping for Cody. I don't know if you guys felt the same way.
A little bit. Like, he was just like praising Cody and thanking Cody that he like. I mean, basically, I think Enzo saw it as Cody just gave you $50,000.
That's fair.
Like that's how I perceived it. I was like, oh, this is a gift from Cody to you. I mean, Enzo had no shot at beating Cody. Like, I thought like maybe someone would give him like a salty jury vote and maybe appreciate his. I mean, it's true, no one targeted him, but whether that's his intention or whether that's because people know he's not gonna. I don't think Enzo has an end game. That's my big thing on Enzo. It's the reason why I didn't pick him as a winner. He was like third in my pecking order. It was Cody, Dave Vaughn, or Danny, and then Enzo for me. And I almost picked Enzo just to make my things exciting, but he just doesn't have an end game in my opinion. Like, there's nothing he can say that makes him stand out above the rest. Like, the Brigade, awesome. You're always like the head of these awesome alliances, but when it comes down to it, there's just not that oomph. And I think even if he sat next to Nicole and Enzo, which would have been tragic, I still think Nicole probably beats him like 6-3 at best. At best for Enzo. But no, I mean, Enzo's still a good player. I mean, he placed higher than he did 10 years ago, which is good. But I don't even remember what you're talking
player
about.
Other than like not the only player, but one of the few players this season who actually did better. Like him, Cody, David, and
Devon.
Devon. All right, so only 4 players did it, which is added to because a lot of those players were final 3 and on, but I think the best part was like, listen, you can vote for me unless you want to vote for the guy who won all the comps and did all the moves and did them. It was like, oh god. And so no.
Danny also placed higher than her BB13 performance, but obviously she got second from BB8. So, but yeah, there's only 4 people where this was their best performance, and Enzo was one of them. So. Yeah, I think that like we talked about, like, Cody's endgame speech or his final jury speech was very good and like articulated his game very well for the most part. But I think that it definitely helped a lot that it was contrasted specifically against Enzo's performance, which was like kind of a hot mess, and it didn't seem like he really had any plans going in of like a speech or any kind of like talking points at all, and he was just kind of going off the cuff and doing his like usual Enzoisms, like, "Yo, this is my game, yo. Nobody was coming after me. I was in everyone's pocket, you know."
Yeah.
And yeah, it's good for like, creating a persona within the house that people are going to like want to like you and like work with you, but like in terms of earning respect against somebody like Cody, who is like masterminded the game from start to finish so like flawlessly, it just was not good enough. It was not even like close to good enough in terms of like swinging votes. But yeah, I mean, I do think that Enzo as a player, outside of contrasting him with Cody, played like way better than like a 0 vote jury final would indicate. Similar to the other 0 vote finalist, Memphis in BB10, which is the only other standard US player. And even if we're looking at BB Can, I think Anthony in BB Can 7 as well. There are a number of cases where...
Don't forget Ricky Williams, Ben.
Well, I mean, yeah, I think Ricky Williams, his social game really deserved 0 votes at that end game, but that's a different discussion. But I do think there is a pattern of when like a pair kind of runs things, but there's one that is like clearly the alpha and the other one's clearly the beta within that pair, where it's still going to be a blowout, even if like that second player, like the like kind of sidekick player, is still like leagues better than everyone else and is like an above average player at the very least in general. And I do think Enzo is an above average player. I think that he could be in the discussion of like a top 5 player never to win at this point, based off of his 2 performances here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 3 and 2. So, I mean, Cody now has the highest placement ever, right? Only runner, and Dan. They're tied.
And Dan, yes.
Yeah. But then Enzo, he's right there.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Well, I mean, if we're like being very analytical with these numbers, like Cody got 2 jury votes in his losing season, and Dan got 1. So you could argue that Cody like averages out marginally higher or whatever.
Right.
But
it's to get to the end after winning's way harder.
Exactly. I agree. That's something else. If we're going to talk about Cody's legacy, I think, which is probably the main thing that we can talk about tonight that we haven't already like beat to death in the last 4 weeks, kind of predicting what this end game was going to look like. Where is Cody rank as a player overall in Big Brother? What do you guys think?
Chad, you want to take it? I need to think.
Yeah, it's tough.
That's a great question.
It's tough because I haven't watched BB. 1 doesn't count, but 2 through 9. So, like, I know Danielle Reyes is in the conversation, but I can't speak on her as much as you could, Benny. For me, I honestly rank him top 5, 5th as the lowest, though. Mainly because of how dominant this win was. It's just like, you gotta respect it. It's the only perfect game in BB US history. I don't know about other, Big Brothers, but I think that alone, especially coming off of BB 16, which she did, fairly well. I think it was only on the block once in BB 16. I could be wrong. And 2 votes against Derek, which played a very similar steamroll-y type game. I mean, it's 2 votes. I guess there's something to be said about it, but it's not like Cody was Derek's, like, lack of a better word, bitch, but he, they were pretty equal. I think more equal than Memphis and Dan were. That's probably arguable, but no, I think Cody's right up there with the greats. I think he's next to Dan. I think he maybe edges out Derek, but only because Derek didn't have a chance to play 2 times. And I think Derek probably can't perform as well as he did the first time because he won. It's the same Nicole thing, where it's no one's going to take you to the end because you're a winner. It's just how it is. But no, I think he's up there. Top 5, top 3 if you really want to, wank him. But no, I like Cody a lot. I think he's up there.
Yeah, I think it's hard to judge somebody who won the second time versus someone who's won on subsequent attempts. For me, personally, I'll always favor the players who won the first time a little bit more, even if like their cast overall was weaker, which obviously an all-newbie cast is going to be weaker than an all-star cast every time. But yeah, I think he has an argument to be in the top 5. I guess I need more space to take it in,
Right.
to really decide if he is in that conversation. Because there's like Will and Dan are like S tier, and then everyone else is like a little bit below, and then trying to figure out he's absolutely B tier. Is he A tier? I don't know. I have to think about it.
Yeah, it's definitely difficult, especially when you don't want to like just have this inherent like recency bias of like, oh, it just happened. Oh, it was like so impressive. I don't want to like, immediately say like he's one of the best players of all time. But I do think this game was probably the best Big Brother game played of all time that I've seen, at least, in terms of just like the fewest number of mistakes, like even compared to like either of Dan's games. Like Dan was in hot water for the first few weeks of VB10, and he like really had to lay low and just rely heavily upon the inherent drama of that cast in order to kind of like rise above and get himself into a good position. And in 14, he was basically not a player for the first like month of the game, and then he, the week of his funeral, he was in extremely hot water and like definitely played very well with his back against the wall to bail himself out there. But like Cody this season was never in any position like that at all, like even close. Like he was never even in a position where he had to like have his back against the wall or fight at all. I think that the fact that he won out in the last 2 rounds, I said previously that would be a knock against him for me. But I think the fact that Nicole very, very clearly was going to take him when that was 100% not the correct decision in terms of her wanting to win the game, I think that like definitely boosts him up a lot. For me, I would definitely, I think, put him in the top 5 players. Just immediate reaction. I think that he's up there, possibly even like number 4. And like Chad said, a lot of people put Derek as number 3, at least before the season. But it's very difficult to compare somebody who's only played once to somebody who's played twice, and they have had very strong showings in both of their seasons and won one of them. Somebody like a Dan or a Will or now a Cody. So yeah, I think that there is at least an argument based off of that to even put him as high as like now the new like 3rd in that trio. It's just going to kind of be dependent upon how well this season ages in terms of just like objective gameplay.
Yeah, and I do weigh a little bit like I want to see winners and I want to see players be in every scenario, because like some players are just really great front runners. They know how to like keep everyone chill, keep like moving the status quo. But how would they play if they were immediately on the bottom? And would they be able to recover from that, or would they not be able to recover from it? Like, can they adjust? And that is a knock against him in the sense that his 2 games are very similar in how much of adversity he had to face. And so I don't think I have a necessarily full view of him as a player.
Yeah, no, that's totally fair. Both games were like almost too clean to the point where like it's difficult to imagine if like anything goes wrong. But in this game, like while very little went wrong for him, there were cases where he did start to like slip with his power. We talked about it at the time during the Christmas HOH week, like when Tyler was threatening to quit. Like the week before that, and then heading into that week, Tyler was trying to grab some power and influence with Enzo to get him to target Danny with him. And there is like a potential there if Tyler doesn't drop the ball and try to quit the game, that Cody might have actually had to face some kind of adversity. But at that point, it was very tricky to like actually evaluate how that would have gone down, because that was more of Tyler dropping the ball because of his like mental state rather than Cody actually doing something about it. So yeah, it's tricky, but I do just keep on like coming back to the thought that like Nicole Franzel, who is like a winner of this game, and who I do think, you know, despite whether you like her personally, is like a very admirable player. The fact that she was still going to take him to the end when she like would have gotten destroyed by him, and she probably would have easily won against Enzo. Even on top of that, when he ended up cutting her, even though he probably still might have and probably would have beaten her. I think that just says like a lot about the like kind of social control he was able to, exude on this season. I don't know.
Right.
It's tricky. Speaking of Nicole Franzel, what do you think? What do you think Nicole Franzel's legacy is going to be coming out of this season, Chad?
I think it kind of remains the same for me. Getting to third, especially after a winning season, and being like literally this close to like maybe making final two. I think there's a world where Nicole's in that final two spot next to Cody instead of Enzo. Like it's not too far off. I think if she said the right things instead of just basically begged for it and been so frantic about it, like then maybe. Or if Enzo just did like a little more on his end to prove like I'm actually a good player, not someone you just want to, grab at the end. I don't know. I don't know what the actual chances of Cody taking Nicole over Enzo would be. Cody says it's really close in pretty much every interview I've seen of him on like Robert's podcast or like, whatever program that's interviewed him so far. So I think her legacy remains kind of the same. I mean, obviously it has to tarnish a little because she doesn't win again or get second. But like you said, the fact that she was so like invested in taking Cody either way kind of puts a damper on things. But for me, Nicole's a player. She's obviously excellent, but I mean, she's definitely not like, if we're gonna put it in tiers, I wouldn't put her as S by any means. Like maybe a high B. I don't know. I don't see many seasons you put Nicole in and she's a guaranteed lock to win. Like the season she won, she was in a pretty good situation, but I don't know. I put her as high B, maybe low A if you really like Nicole. Personally, I hate the girl, but whatever.
I think Nicole's is a cautionary tale. So she obviously had a good run in being like a fan favorite on BB16. I don't think that's controversial to say, as much as now people don't like her. People rooted for her. She was the underdog. She won the battle back. It was, good vibes. She went into BB18. She was pretty annoying, but ultimately she was a good player. She deserved to win. And then this season, not only was she not very likable, even to like someone who me was like, I don't dislike Nicole at all. Like, I'm happy to see her back. I really did not enjoy watching her this season at all. But she also like got brutally cut, and that sucks. And then she also lost sponsors in real life from other stuff. Like, if you win Survivor or Big Brother, I think it's much smarter to do what we heard Steve do, and laugh at them when they invite you back and hang up the phone because it's not worth it. It's never going to go as well the next time.
Mm-hmm.
Like, 2 people it went well for. Most people goes horribly, you know?
I mean, it went okay. It went okay for Jordan in 13.
That's true. That's true. So Jordan, Dan, Will, great. Sandra, Tony, awesome. From their points of view. Pretty much everyone else, awful. Bad time. Just stay home. Keep your legacy intact. Don't lose sponsors for your wedding. It just does not seem worth it.
Yeah. I mean, like, it's tough though, because like some people like don't really care about legacy in the game. Like, you won. Like, what more do I have to prove? They just kind of want another chance at the money, another chance to be on TV, or just another chance to play and have fun. In Nicole's case, like, I don't know what the hell it was.
Oh no, it didn't look like she was having a lot of fun this season.
It's just like, I think she was just trying to get more, like, get her face out there more, try to get more sponsors for all this random crap she sells.
That's true. I didn't really consider this because she is a social media influencer. This is literally her job to be out there more. So fair point, Chad.
Yeah, I think if she was like an actual decent human being and didn't make fun of Ian that one week, maybe then she is in a bit better spot. I mean, for me, that was it. I'm like, that whole trio making fun of Ian, I was like, that's just so wrong. Like, as a human being, like, that's not right. Especially because Ian was like her literal ride or die, like, final 2 winner pick, winners alliance. I mean, obviously it was Cody in the end still, but I think if Ian's in that house, she probably is more loyal to Ian than Cody if it was like final 4 with them, right? And how do you not want Ian there?
I mean, maybe if it was the final 4, but when Ian was on the block, you very clearly chose Cody over Ian in terms of she voted out Ian specifically to not piss off Cody.
Right, which probably speaks to Cody's game much more than it does, anyone else's. But yeah, I think she wasn't there to boost legacy in any means.
Yeah, I do think
she probably was, and it failed epically.
I do think that I think that one, she does like being on TV, and she does like boosting her social media clout in terms of like getting sponsors and all that. But I do think she is a legitimately competitive person. On top of that, like, her and Victor did very well in the Amazing Race. They came in 4th on a season where it was pretty much designed for the Amazing Race teams to just like stomp everyone. Like, they were the only team that wasn't an Amazing Race team that even looked like competent.
Right.
So,
what do you mean, Rupert and Laura were great? It's a great showing.
Yeah, I mean, like, I was rooting for like Eliza and Karen and for like Janelle and Brittany, but like they didn't perform well on the season. Either of those 2 teams. And like, I even came into that season with Nicole and Victor as my winner pick because they're like, on any given season of the Amazing Race, I think they would do very well. It's just that they were up against like really high caliber like teams who had already done the race before. So I
done like super well.
Yeah, I did super well, exactly. So I think that Nicole is very intrinsically competitive. And it definitely like shows. Obviously, at the very end, it didn't seem like she was really like driven to win. But I think she just kind of had like a really bad read on how completely commanding in terms of the jury vote Cody was going to have, and just like really oversold her ability to potentially beat him. But I do think there is a very strange phenomenon in like modern Big Brother that's kind of been self-reinforced, which is that like a lot of players in the end game are really afraid of making that like kind of a big move and then like still losing, which I think is something that Nicole specifically vocalized, which is that like she would feel like really horrible if she cut Cody and then still lost the game.
Yeah.
And I think we see this with like, Tyler and Casey, and with like Josh and Paul, and like all of these kind of players that have declined to make the move in the end game and still were granted the win over the dominant player. So I think that might have been kind of where Nicole was looking at, but it's still very difficult to defend.
Can't relate. Just cut whoever you need to win.
No, I agree.
$500,000, guys.
I agree. I'm definitely on the like Steve cut Vanessa, John cut Netta style like endgame gameplay, especially when there's a very clear like Liz Nolan or Sabrina style. Like this person is not winning a jury vote person there in the final three with you. Yeah. So yeah, it's tricky. I don't think that I don't think that Nicole Franzel is gonna really hurt or like improve her legacy off of the season. I think that most people kind of had their mind made up on her coming in, and at this point, I think a lot of people are just like kind of wanting to like forget about her and just like move on to anyone else at this point.
Yeah,
I was kind of thinking that, like when we were watching the final three, maybe because the episodes are so boring, but I was like, oh my god, I cannot wait to just see new fucking people like on this show. I don't want to see Nicole again. I don't want to see even like Cody. Like great, maybe in like 5-10 years, or like in the ultimate season or something. I just want new people to play this game, and I'm so tired, which sucks because before this, I think all of us were hyped as fuck for All Stars, but now I'm just for a while, please.
Yeah, that's like the monkey's paw, like we said before. Yeah, I mean, it is pretty sad that even compared to last season, which was a new cast, and I think that many people like did not particularly like last season, primarily because the cast was incredibly unlikable. But from like a gameplay perspective, last season was way more interesting, even with the domination of like Grateful and the 6 shooters in them. There was a point on day 45 where the alliance kind of started falling apart, and like Jackson and Holly were kind of pushed out of the alliance and created this like counter insurgency with people like Nicole and Cliff. And that was interesting. Like, even though there was like 2 or 3 people on the season that were like rootable people, and everyone else was kind of horrible, it was at least objectively interesting from a gameplay perspective. Whereas from this season, I don't think there were many people who were like really like horrid people. Like there were a few people who did and said some like questionable things, but compared to last season, there was nothing that really hit that high of horridness.
Yeah, we didn't get a sad confetti
walk
out this year. A surprised one, but not a
Cody didn't have confetti on his shoulders while he was like on the verge of tears, like for bad reasons from his perspective. But yeah, it's just the season was just kind of happened. Like it didn't really. There's not really much to talk about because there is not a lot that transpired. It was just kind of bland. It wasn't like, it didn't evoke emotions. Like last season evoked a lot of negative emotions, and then when it was exciting, there were like a few moments, like the day 45 like Sam Cat eviction, and then there was like the Taco Tuesday stuff, and a lot of the end game was
manifest the truth.
Yeah, it was very like objectively entertaining if you ignore the fact that the people are horrible. Whereas
there was the have not room lie where Jackson listened through the door, and then I don't like Jackson. I just want to be clear, I don't like him. That was a great move. One of the best moves I've ever seen.
It was game winning. Like that was the game winning move. And Jackson is fucking terrible. I can't stand Jackson as a person. But objectively, he played a very strong Big Brother game, and it was an interesting Big Brother game to watch, like from a gameplay perspective.
Yeah.
Whereas from this season, the personalities, even though they were all stars, were very like tepid. There were very few like fights or interesting strategic moves. Even it was just kind of like moving pieces slightly on this like very constrained game board, and then like the pieces kind of just like gradually fell off the board until only Cody was left.
Right. And it's even more frustrating for that when like people were leaving and they were like, I should have done this. And it's like, damn. So you knew you should have done this and you still didn't do this. Like Enzo this week when he was like, after he lost the HOH, he was like, damn it, I should have voted Nicole out. Like, then I should have done this, I should have done that. And it's like, these are all things we've been saying. Like, if Enzo wanted to put himself in a better position to win, he should have done this and that. And it's like one thing where it's like, well, maybe he doesn't see it that way. But like when it comes out that they do also agree but didn't have the gusto to make the moves, is frustrating.
Yeah. I think it's tricky because it's an all-star season. So, I mean, I kind of got this with Survivor Rutland when we played, where like I was always timid to play again because I didn't want to just be an early boot and like ruin my legacy. So I feel like people are just like, they want to do whatever they can to get higher. Like they want to do the safest bet to get them. Oh, I don't want to be 7th. I want to be 6th. So, you know, they'll play whatever safe move they can to guarantee that spot. And Enzo not booting Nicole is a prime example of that. Like, sure, Enzo wouldn't have gone home that week, but like, you know, maybe the next couple weeks it could have been different. So I think a lot of people played it safe. You know, going off of everything else, like there was only one real fight this season, and it felt like people just didn't even want to be there half the time. Like honestly, I feel like people weren't motivated to play. Like obviously, Janelle, Kaser, and like Cody, I guess you saw like the fire. I mean, Tyler literally wanted to quit, and Tyler was like one of my favorites coming in. Like I didn't think he was gonna win. I think he had a shot, but I was so excited about Tyler because I know how much he loves the game, how much he like is a competitor, and like even he just got burnt out, wanted to quit. Whether it's for, you know, missing Angela or, you know, the whole Black Lives Matter debate with him and Devon. It's probably a mix of a bunch of things, and some things he didn't even talk about, but still, it's like people didn't want to be there.
Yeah, and I think it's hard. It's like a very strange time with COVID, with everything. And I think all of them probably had trepidations. Like, is this the smart thing to do? Like, there's so much happening in the world right now. Should I like go into the house? And I feel like when things start like not going your way, especially in a house where it's like a crazy long game, crazy isolated, you can't get away from anywhere. Like those thoughts just compound and like keep adding up, and that voice in the back of your head is like, see, you knew you shouldn't have come, and you came, and now the bad things happening, and it's easy to like spiral out of control in that instance. So I get it, but it's also just disappointing as a viewer.
Yeah, no, I definitely think that there were a number. I think Ian as well as somebody who, up until like the week where he was in trouble, he seemed very not into playing the game, and he would like make jokes about wanting to quit or wanting to be evicted pre-jury and stuff like that. And like he just very much seemed out of it in numerous instances. But then when he was in trouble and on the block, he like did start to fight back really hard, and he did show a lot of emotion in terms of wanting to stay in the game. Part of that might have been because at that point he had already made the jury, so it wasn't like he was going home anyways. But he definly, and he was probably the closest to like actually flipping a vote this season of anybody. So yeah, it did seem like there was a lot of hesitancy to make a move, hesitancy to even care about the game or like put any kind of emotion into it. And that definitely kind of came through on the screen and in the gameplay on the season, which is disappointing.
Yeah, and I think too, like the kind of goes back to what we were talking about, where people are hesitant to make moves. Like Kaser and Janelle were very on top of like what was going to happen immediately, and just no one else had that in them. No one else had the like, oh shit, like let me try to take my fate into my own hands. Everyone was so like, well, the house is going this way. I don't want to go against the house. And it's just so easy to get caught like on the wrong side of that if you don't act fast enough, you know?
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. I think that obviously competition outcomes was a huge part of that. Like even if Janelle and Kaser had been able to rally a group, the comp outcomes were definitely not in their favor. Every single comp was basically won by the committee plus Enzo, either way. So even if people like Bailey and Nicole, Anthony, and Kevin had like kind of got their heads out of their asses, like it probably wouldn't have even mattered, just because the comps were so concentrated into that power core. I know a lot of people have talked about like, is Big Brother broken? Is like the format like has it been solved, right? Like is this strategy just like too dominant to the point where like this is just how Big Brother is going to be from now on? I don't think that's the case. I think that we've seen that like we basically haven't seen that since 16. Like 17 was a very chaotic season. 18 had like a couple of power shifts. Like it wasn't like super straightforward, but like there was a turn, a coup against Pauly, and in the end game there were a couple of different power shifts because people were playing very self-interestedly. 19 obviously was like a very well. 19 also was similar to this, but again, that was more to do with Paul being a singular attorney on a very poorly cast. 20 was very interesting with two sides battling it out. 21, even with the like strong majority alliance, that alliance did have cracks that cracked open, and the second half of the game was very fluid. So yeah, I think that I don't think Big Brother is fundamentally broken. I think it comes down to just more variety in comps and casting people who are going to play self-interestedly and not just like ride to the jury or like be like, oh, I'm gonna guarantee myself top 7 or whatever, and then like hope that I can win out from there.
Yeah, I think maybe could add some temptations there. Like, I think the one good thing that came out of the 10K thing with David was it showed people genuinely get kind of upset if people choose money over power, and maybe if you have more instances of that, more like, I don't know, just more variables to throw into the cast and more decisions for them to make, maybe people start like being like, oh, that person I thought I was good with, but they threw this competition just for some money. Can I trust them to make a move later? Just stuff to get people thinking, because I think if Big Brother is broken, the part that's broken is the game happens Thursday to Sunday, and then there's like a break where like presumably that's when people are supposed to like make moves and stuff, but I think it makes people too complacent. It's just like too long of a like where nothing's happening. There's no stimuli to get people like going, like I think that's where Survivor has a big advantage, is like everything seems so live because there's just no time to do stuff. And stuff flips way more because it's easier to convince people in a short amount of time to make a move that they can't consider all angles from than it is like in Big Brother, where it's like, if you're going to try to flip a vote, you're going to try to flip a vote Wednesday for Thursday. And at that point, people are just like, no, I've already like decided this is my best course.
Yeah, I'm already planning for next week, right? I'm already like, this week is already over in my mind. I've already, So how would you fix that then? Just like change, would you speed up, so like turn every round into a half of a week, or would you just change the schedule to like make the veto competition happen later and then the veto meeting happen later?
I think because obviously Big Brother wants to be on for a long time, and if you shortened it, you'd have to cast more people or make the season shorter. Right. I think they should try to have the 2 people pre-veto nominees like up there for longer, get bad feelings potentially for a little longer, get more motivated to win, then have the veto happen later in the week, and maybe that mixes stuff up more. Maybe that, that time of people being like stewing on the block, or conversely being like, oh, I'm not on the block, I'm not gonna get back to, and then getting put on the block. Maybe that makes people a little bit more angry or a little bit more self-interested. And I don't know. What do you guys think?
No, I agree. I think, having longer time with you on the block is better. Like, being on the block should be like the oh shit moment. And a lot of the times I feel like it's like, okay, I got one veto, which is still going to be true. But like, the more time you're sitting there thinking, the more time you're stewing in it, the more likely it's either going to get in your head, or the more likely you're going to make, a really good move and like have good conversations and wiggle yourself out of, being, the boot that week. I think a shorter week, which obviously is counter to CBS's idea, would be best. Just take the week in half. Have new HOH Sunday on the block. Sunday night or Monday, probably Monday morning if anything. Veto Tuesday, and like maybe eviction Wednesday, Thursday still, and then start the new week. From new HOH on Friday, and then just speed it up a little. And I think that'd be best, but it's tough. I think Survivor is a little bit better as in terms of the gameplay in that aspect, where it's like you got 3 days. You're also starving and during elements, and just there's so many other factors that affect your mental state, regardless, and physical. So it's a different type of game, but I mean, I always have liked Big Brother as a game more. But no, I agree. There's definitely improvements you can make. I don't think the game is broken. I agree with you, Benny, there. It's just like big alliances, if they work, are going to hit like this. It's just the nature of the beast.
Yeah, and I don't know, too, because while you're talking, I was just thinking, Survivor also promotes like aggressive gameplay because every round could be anyone getting voted off.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's part of the issue, is that in Big Brother, like, you can't go every round. Only, usually at most 3 people can be up for elimination in a week.
Yeah.
So I don't know if there's a way around that kind of makes people complacent,
Well, I think that the way that Big Brother handles that is with the week-to-week power shifts of like a different HOH every week. And the reason that didn't work out this season and in seasons past is because generally there's been like a power, like a small power structure that has been able to monopolize a lot of the HOH wins. And even in situations where that wasn't the case, like for example, Jessica's HOH week in BB19, there is like kind of like a fear put into players that like, oh, if you make a move on this week, you're going to not have power next week, and you're just going to be fucked, right? Like even if you successfully make a move, like now you're the big bad, now you're the target. And so I think a lot of the like complacency and a lot of the unwillingness to change up the power structure kind of comes from that fear. But I think that's just fundamentally misplaced. I think if you kind of have to be more like objective about your own state in the house, and if you're in a losing spot, right, it doesn't matter. Like Jessica evicting Ramses didn't like save her,
help her.
Yeah. So you just kind of have to cast. That's why I said I think the primary thing outside of creating a wider variety of competitions and more random competitions is just casting people who are always going to be self-interested, even when their back's up against a wall, and especially when their back's up against a wall, they're going to like know that they have to like punch back, right? Like, because the trick of these kind of big alliances, like commanding social power, is making the people on the outside not realize that they're being backed into a corner. And if you realize you're being backed into a corner, you have nothing to lose than to like start like swinging back, because you're fucked either way. So I think the one thing is just like creating or like casting people who are like more cognizant of their social positioning and who are going to be self-interested and like start punching back when they like notice that they're being backed into a corner.
Yeah, I mean, maybe one day we can do an episode of just harebrained ideas of different things, like secret blind HOH. No one knows who won. No one knows who is it till the nominations.
That's actually a really interesting way to potentially solve that like fear issue of like even like the first HOH. That would be interesting. Even as like a season long twist, or at least like maybe like a pre-jury twist. It could be very interesting if I think that there might be a situation where people will like blab and say like similar to like the roadkill and BB-18.
No, here's what you do. You have the challenge. We know who wins. The players don't know who wins.
They all make
nominations. And then you see who gets up. Then the veto, then it's like revealed. Or you can just have it be, the veto is drawn by production so that you can say, oh, the HOH could be any of these people who got drawn, Like, I don't know. It's just something, throwing it out there.
Yeah, I actually think that's a really interesting, like, because they like to do these weird like game mechanic twists for the first 5 weeks of the game or whatever. I actually think that would be a really interesting and compelling like game twist to do for like those first 5 weeks, and it would really like disincentivize these groups from forming, especially around a first HOH, which is what we've seen happen. So like, because if you don't know like who has power, the relationships will kind of more naturally determine what the groups look like, and
or maybe even have everyone play in the veto. Why not? Like, if it's a pre-jury twist, then like maybe it can work.
Well, they could do what BB Can has done for the last 2 seasons, which is to not have the HOH play in the veto, and just have the two nominees plus 3 people drawn randomly. And so what they would do is they would put everybody's name in the bag, and then including the 2 nominees. And if either of the 2 nominees' names were drawn, they would get the house guest choice.
I like that too, and maybe even not like have the HOH not be eligible to play, but like they're eligible to play if they get pulled.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. We did it.
We solved Big Brother. Good job, Ryan.
Thanks, guys. If anyone ever plays Big Brother Outland, maybe that'll be a twist on their game test. But we'll see. Oh man! All right, is there anything else we want to talk about for this one?
I don't know, man.
Congratulations, Chad, again.
Oh please. I worked very hard. I worked so hard. I was right there next to Cody. I was sending him texts like, "Hey, boot Tyler. You got to get Tyler, my guy." I was the wall yeller. It was me. I swear to God.
Well, if you were the wall yeller, then you probably were.
Expensive trip.
Yeah, I took a red eye home.
Cross country to yell.
Yeah.
I guess one last thing, of course. I don't know how to forget it. Devon, congratulations, American favorite player. Like well deserved, of course, and the only person who really made an impactful move against the majority alliance. You have to give it to her pretty much by default at that point. Like, she may not have had the best reads this season, unlike seasons past, but I enjoyed watching her. If this is the last time, she did well, and she, I think like many people have said, she brought like a lot of important conversations and topics to the table that wouldn't have been brought up before. So, yeah, still one of my favorites of all time. and I'm really happy she won.
Southern.
I was out there voting 10 times a day,
Yeah.
every day for Devon, just spamming it. So really happy.
Yeah, I mean, she talked about she's a big fan of the Circle, and she said she wanted to be on the Circle, so maybe she should be on the Circle season 3.
Yes, yes.
Oh, God. That'd be
Hey,
pretty
we
cool.
should get her on the
Influencer chat.
influencer
Yeah,
chat.
that's a good like segue into a plug, because Circle season 2 probably gonna be out sometime in like January or February. It's being filmed right now, I believe. So yeah, we'll be talking about the Circle season 2.
If you like Big Brother, I am confident saying you'll like The Circle.
Yeah.
Like, it's really fun. It's a good show. It's on Netflix, first season if you haven't seen it. There's a few international seasons on there too if you really like it. So check it out. And yeah, subscribe to this channel because we're going to be covering it.
Yeah, and then, you know, the one good thing about this season being so late in the year is it's 2 less months in terms of the off season. So we have Big Brother Canada 9 coming back probably in around March. Mm-hmm. So, you know, we'll see if we can cover that, and then, you know, it'll probably be a quick month or two turnaround after that before we get to Big Brother 23.
Oh my God. I have not room is immortal. You can't.
Survivor's not happening, so.
Oh, it's not. No, damn.
Someday we'll be back.
Yeah,
we'll see. Maybe we'll cover old seasons or something.
Oh God, we should have break down the week and make predictions on old seasons.
Oh man, but yeah, until then, you know, we'll be here on Wicked Good Podcasts. Ben is going to be guest. Ben, why don't you tell?
What I'm going to be doing
Survivor New York. Yeah.
Now, I guess.
Yeah, in like 2 minutes.
Yeah, so if you are really starved for Survivor content, you know, there's a lot of really good live reality game seasons coming out on YouTube. A lot of good college Survivor seasons coming out. One of the seasons, or one of the games that Brian and I played a few years back was Survivor New York. We played in season 1. Right now, season 3 is airing. It's a very good season so far. The last 2 episodes especially have been absolute fire. And so I'll be, Brian guested on the Live Reality Games podcast last week, covering episode 4. I am going to be about to cover the episode 5. So if you're starved for content, you know, we're probably going to have like a 2-ish month hiatus here, at least, before we get more like competition reality stuff. Check out those seasons. Check out the coverage of it. You know, it's going to be a lot of fun. So.
Yeah, no doubt. And of course, we'll keep making different shows and stuff on Wicked Good Podcasts. You can check out the main channel, Wicked Good Everything, for more videos. This Saturday, Halloween, we'll be doing a Halloween hangout stream. Ooh. We're just going to hang out, shoot the shit, watch some old videos that we made of like spooky things, and it's all going to lead up to the premiere of a new Wicked October episode for Halloween, so you are not going to want to miss that. So subscribe to the main channel, youtube.com/wickedgoodeverything. Subscribe to this channel, Wicked Good Podcasts. Follow us on Twitch at twitch.tv/wickedgoodeverything. Chad, where can they find you online?
You can find me on Instagram at ChadleyJP and on Twitter at ChadPerry25. Should be right here.
Ben, same question.
You can find me on social media at Ben Sharon. That's Sharon with 2 R's. Yeah, that's it.
You can follow me on Twitter at TheFakeBMar. It's BMARR. You can follow me on Instagram at SuperMarBro, and the channel on Twitter at WG Everything, and on Instagram at WickedGoodEverything. We will see you with Big Brother Canada 9. 8? 9.
9.
8 got cut.
Yeah.
But 9, which will actually happen for real.
Hopefully.
Hopefully.
Knock on wood.
Oh man. So we'll see you guys very soon. Have a great one.